It's been 3 months, and the phone hasn't rung, not once. You still keep it close, though, on the kitchen table, beside your favorite chair. Volume turned all the way up, just in case. Every time it lights up, your heart lifts. But it's just a spam call or a reminder about a prescription or no one at all. And in the quiet that follows, there's a question you don't say out loud. Did I do something wrong? You replay the last conversation. Was there a tone in your voice? Did you ask for too much? Were you too much? Sometimes you reach for the phone just to hear their voice, but then you stop because you don't want to interrupt. You don't want to be a burden. You don't want to seem needy, so you wait. And waiting becomes a kind of silence that settles deep in the chest, not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. If this feels familiar, I want you to know something very important. There's nothing weak about missing your child. There is nothing shameful about longing to be remembered. Stay with me. Because this silence, it tells a deeper story. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Robert. Robert is 72. He lives in a quiet neighborhood just outside Columbus, Ohio. The house feels bigger now than it used to. Not because it changed, but because the noise is gone. He wakes up around 6:30 every morning, makes coffee the same way he has for 40 years. 2 scoops, a little too strong, just how his daughter used to tease him about. He doesn't say much about it, but he checks his phone before he even pours the coffee. Nothing. Robert has 2 children, a son in Arizona, a daughter in North Carolina. They're good people, hardworking, busy. He tells everyone that. They've got their own lives, he says with a small nod. I don't want to bother them. And most days, he believes that. But around 7:15 in the evening, when the sun starts to fall and the house gets quieter, he sits in his recliner and places the phone on the small table beside him, not staring at it, not obsessing, just nearby. Sometimes he scrolls through old photos, birthdays, graduations, a camping trip where his son caught his first fish, a blurry picture of his daughter laughing so hard she couldn't stand up straight. He smiles, and then he sighs. It's not anger. It's not even disappointment. It's something softer than that. It's the slow realization that days can pass without anyone asking how he's doing. Last Thanksgiving, he told them not to worry about flying home. It's expensive, he said. I'm fine. And he meant it, mostly. But when the holiday came and went, and the turkey left over sat untouched in the fridge, he felt something he couldn't quite name. Not abandonment, not exactly, just distance, the kind that grows quietly, without an argument, without a dramatic goodbye. Just fewer calls, longer gaps, shorter conversations. And Robert tells himself every night, they'll call tomorrow, and maybe they will. But tonight, the phone rests on the table, and the house is very, very still. When the silence stretches long enough, it begins to speak, and what it says is not always kind. For many parents, the first thought isn't anger, it's self-doubt. Did I do something wrong? You revisit moments from years ago, a strict rule, a harsh word spoken out of exhaustion, a time you didn't fully understand what they were going through. You wonder, did that stay with them longer than I realized? Then another question rises. Am I a burden now. You notice how quickly they end calls, how often they say, "I'm just really busy," how rarely they ask about your doctor's appointment or whether you're sleeping well, and you start shrinking yourself. You say you're fine when you're not. You leave out the part about the fall in the kitchen. You don't mention the loneliness on Sundays. Because somewhere inside, you've decided that needing too much might push them further away. There's also the quiet comparison. You see other families at restaurants, grandparents at soccer games, photos on Facebook of 3 generations smiling, and you ask yourself, what did they do differently? What did I miss? These questions don't shout, they whisper. They come late at night, when the house is dark and memory feels louder. And here is something important I want you to understand. These questions are natural. When connection feels uncertain, the human mind looks inward for answers. But self-blame is not the same as truth. Distance in families is rarely caused by one moment. It is usually shaped by time, stress, unspoken expectations, and life moving faster than relationships can keep up. Still, knowing that doesn't always quiet the ache, because beneath all the analysis, beneath the reasoning, beneath the logic, there is something very simple. You miss your child. And missing someone you love is not weakness. It is attachment. It is the echo of years spent caring, protecting, guiding. The silence hurts because the bond mattered, and it still does. Now, I want to gently widen the lens. Not to dismiss your pain, not to excuse silence, but to understand it. Because distance in modern families often grows in ways that are quiet and complicated. Your children are living in a world very different from the one you raised them in. Many of them are working longer hours than previous generations. 2-income households are common. Commutes are longer. Technology keeps them constantly reachable, but rarely truly present. Their phones never stop buzzing. Work emails at night, school messages, bills, deadlines. And somewhere inside that constant noise, emotional energy becomes limited. Not gone, just stretched thin. There's also geography. Families used to stay closer together, same town, same church, same routines. Today, careers pull people across states, sometimes across the country. A son in Arizona, a daughter in North Carolina, time zones alone can create small barriers. 3 hours difference can quietly turn "I'll call later" into "I'll call next week." And weeks become months. Then there's something we rarely talk about openly: adult-child burnout. Many people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are part of what researchers call the sandwich generation. They are caring for their own children while also trying to support aging parents. It is a heavy place to stand. Financial pressure is real. Housing costs are higher than they were decades ago. Healthcare expenses, college tuition, retirement fears. Sometimes when people feel overwhelmed, they withdraw. Not because they don't love, but because they feel inadequate. If they can't solve your problems, if they can't visit as often as they wish, if they feel guilty for not doing enough, they may call less. Not out of indifference, but out of discomfort. Silence can sometimes be avoidance, and avoidance is often rooted in guilt. None of this erases how it feels to sit in a quiet house. None of this makes the waiting easier, but understanding something changes the emotional temperature. It shifts the story from "they don't care" to something more nuanced. They may be overwhelmed. Love does not always disappear. Sometimes it becomes tangled in stress, timing, miscommunication, and the pace of modern life. This does not mean you must accept distance without feeling it, but it does mean the silence is not automatically a verdict on your worth. Relationships are living things. They respond to environment, and today's environment is fast, pressured, and often exhausting. The space between you may not be filled with rejection. It may be filled with life, messy, complicated, imperfect life. And when we begin to see that, even gently, it creates a little room inside the heart. Room for compassion, room for patience, room for a different next step. Even when we understand the reasons for distance, the body still feels the silence. Loneliness is not just a thought. It is something that settles into the nervous system. You may notice it at night. The house grows quiet. The television is off. The dishes are done, and there is nothing left to distract you. You lie in bed, and your mind begins to wander, not toward the future, but toward the past. You remember birthday parties, car rides to school, the sound of small footsteps in the hallway, the way your child once called your name from another room. Memory becomes vivid, sometimes almost physical, and then slowly sleep becomes harder to reach. You wake up at 2 a.m. or 3:17 a.m. and your chest feels tight, not with panic exactly, but with an ache. Loneliness often shows up as restlessness or fatigue or a heaviness that makes simple tasks feel larger than they are. You may find yourself speaking less when you're around others, pulling back, canceling small invitations, not because you don't want connection, but because rejection, even imagined rejection, starts to feel unbearable, and something subtle begins to happen. You start protecting yourself. You lower expectations. You tell yourself, "I don't need much." You convince your heart to quiet down. But here it is something important. The need for connection does not disappear with age. It does not become childish. It does not become selfish. It remains a deeply human need. Studies have shown that loneliness is common among older adults, not because they are weak, but because life naturally changes. Spouses pass away, friends move, communities shift, bodies slow down. The social world becomes smaller, and when children are far away, emotionally or physically, that circle can feel very small. If you've been feeling more tired than usual, more sensitive, more nostalgic, you are not broken. Your nervous system is responding to absence. Your heart is responding to attachment. And that response, as uncomfortable as it is evidence that you are still deeply capable of love. Loneliness is painful, but it is also proof that connection still matters to you, and that matters. And now, I'd like to offer you a gentle shift in perspective, not to deny the pain, not to rush past it, but to place it somewhere softer. What if this silence is not a verdict, but a season? A verdict feels final. It says, "This is the way it will always be." It closes doors, but a season moves. Winter can feel endless when you are inside it. The trees look bare, the air feels sharp, everything seems still. Yet beneath the surface, roots are still alive. The growth is still quietly happening. Family distance can sometimes be like that. There are stretches of life when children are consumed by building careers, raising families, navigating crises, finding their footing, and during those stretches, connection may thin, but not disappear. If you look back across your own life, you may remember seasons when you were overwhelmed too. Times when you meant to call someone and didn't. Times when love was present, but expression was delayed. Silence is painful, but silence does not automatically equal absence of love. Sometimes it equals distraction, sometimes exhaustion, sometimes fear of saying the wrong thing, and sometimes it simply equals time. This shift is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about loosening the grip of one painful interpretation instead of, they don't care anymore. Perhaps they may be in a season I cannot fully see. That small adjustment can change the temperature inside your chest. It moves you from rejection to possibility, and possibility leaves room for movement. Seasons turn, children grow in ways we cannot always witness. Priorities shift, hearts soften. Distance that feels fixed today may not remain fixed forever, and even if the relationship evolves differently than you imagined. Your worth does not change with the frequency of a phone call. You are not measured by how often someone dials your number. You are measured by the life you lived, the care you gave, the years you showed up. Silence may be a season, and seasons, by their very nature, are not permanent. There is still space ahead. Space for conversation, space for reconnection, space for new forms of closeness you haven't yet imagined, and that space is where hope begins. When we feel powerless, even the smallest action can restore a sense of steadiness. So let's talk about 3 small, realistic steps forward. Not dramatic gestures, not emotional ultimatums, just small movements that protect your heart while opening a door. Step 1, a message without weight. If it feels right, consider sending a short message, not one that carries hurt, not one that lists what has been missing. Something simple. I was thinking of you today. Hope you're doing well. Or I saw something that reminded me of you and it made me smile. No pressure, no hidden accusation, just warmth. This kind of message does 2 things. It reopens connection gently, and it protects your dignity. You are reaching out from strength, not from pleading. And even if the response is brief, you have shifted from waiting to participating. That matters. Step 2, widen the circle slightly. Sometimes when one relationship feels distant, we unintentionally shrink our entire social world. Instead, consider one small reach outward. Call an old friend, say yes to coffee, attend that weekly breakfast group, text a neighbor. It may feel uncomfortable at first. Loneliness often makes us hesitate, but connection does not need to be perfect to be meaningful. Even a 20-minute conversation can soften a week of silence. And something important happens when you diversify connection. Your emotional well-being is no longer resting on one phone call. Your heart gains resilience. Step 3, step into community. This might mean a local church group, a senior center class, a book club, a walking group, a volunteer program, not to replace your children, but to remind yourself that belonging can take many forms. Community does not erase family longing, but it strengthens identity. You're not only a parent waiting for a call, you are a person with stories, wisdom, humor, history. When you step into shared space, even quietly, you allow others to experience who you are now. And often, something surprising happens. The more grounded and engaged you feel, the less desperation attaches to family distance. You approach conversations more calmly. You carry less silent resentment. You become steadier. Small steps do not guarantee immediate reconnection, but they guarantee something equally important. You are not standing still. You are caring for your own heart while leaving the door open. And that balance, that quiet dignity, is powerful. Before we close today, I'd like to invite you into a small moment of stillness. If you're comfortable, place your feet gently on the floor. Let your hands rest softly in your lap and take a slow breath in through your nose for 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it gently for 2 and slowly exhale through your mouth for 6. Let's do that once more. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold and exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As you breathe, notice the chair supporting you. Notice the room around you. Notice that in this moment, you are safe. Now, quietly, either in your mind or in a whisper, repeat this with me. I am still worthy of love. Not because of how often the phone rings, not because of how needed I feel, but because I exist. Again, I am still worthy of love. Your heart did not become less valuable because someone is busy. Your life did not become smaller because a call was missed. The capacity you have to love, to care, to hope is still alive inside you. Take one more slow breath and allow that truth to settle gently in your chest. You are still worthy. If this spoke to you, I want you to know something very clearly. You are not alone here. There are thousands of hearts carrying this same quiet weight, and there is nothing shameful about feeling it. If you feel comfortable, you're welcome to share in the comments. Just a simple sentence. Maybe, I'm listening, or I understand this silence. Sometimes, even a few words can remind someone else that they are not sitting in their living room alone tonight. And in our next conversation, we're going to explore something many parents carry quietly. I didn't want to be a burden, so I stayed silent. Because sometimes the silence doesn't come from distance. It comes from love, misguided, protective, self-sacrificing love. Until then, be gentle with your heart. It has carried so much, and it is still worthy.